it's our final act. And with Matt Berman, one of the co-founders of Workshop APD. And I have interviewed Matt a couple of times, and every time I get his answers, we've done mostly email interviews, I am always just floored by his thoughtfulness and his creative strategy. So as I said, he's the founding principal at Workshop APD, which is an award-winning New York City-based multidisciplinary design and architecture firm, where a diverse collection of projects are uniquely defined by a sense of place and purpose and a desire to ultimately enhance the user experience. And in Matt's keynote, you will definitely understand what that meant. And so, Matt, I'd love you to come on. And yeah, hey, good to see you. We can hear you. Now we can.
There we go.
We can hear you now.
Good. I can hear you. I can see you, although I see my delay, but that's fine.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. I'm so excited. I looked at your presentation last night, and I love learning from you. You've taught me a lot about this business as I've written about you. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So
I think the conversation that you've had already, the conversation today has been great. Even what Lauren was talking about, sort of about how to grow your brand and leverage your brand. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, getting into the discussion about product and how you think beyond your borders, right? Think beyond what you do, and how do you begin to sort of take that to the next level. So that's very much kind of teeing up the conversation that we're about to have. All
right. Well, we're going to turn it over to you.
Great. Well, okay. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here today to be closing this out. I think we're going to talk for about a half an hour, and then you're all off to a happy hour. So I will make sure not to cut into your happy hour time, because I know how valuable that is. And after a day of Zoom presentations, I'm sure everybody needs a drink. So today, I want to talk about the snowball effect, and we'll get to that in a second. We're really talking about sort of how do you build a design brand, right? How do you dodge obstacles and successfully get to a design brand? And so I want to talk a little bit about who we are for those of you who, let me find the next button. There we go. For those of you that don't know us, we are, there we go, Workshop APD. My partner, Andrew Kachin, and I started the firm about 20 years ago. We started off as a residential architecture firm doing architecture. We grew from architecture into interior architecture, into interior design, and then ultimately into product design, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. We've expanded from starting with single family residential work into development work, hospitality work, and then, of course, more product. And so over the past 20 years, it's been an interesting journey for us. I think when we look at this map right now, just to sort of talk about the size of our firm and maybe why I'm qualified to talk about sort of firm growth over time, we are now at about 70 people. On our current docket, we have about 40 plus single family residential projects, 13 development projects, and 9 hospitality projects. We've launched 6 product licenses. We're in the process of developing our own license. We're coming out with a book next year. So we've got a lot going on. I guess my point in this is that over the past 20 years, we have certainly made a lot of mistakes, but we've also had quite a number of successes. And so I want to take you a little bit on that journey about how we got there. Whoops, that's not the right button. There we go. It starts with a vision, right? It starts with this sense, a commitment to a vision and to knowing who you are. For us, it's very much about this idea of crafted modern. It's the lens that we look at our work. Craft, much overused word, is very much connected to materiality for us. It's connected to the hand of the maker, and how you begin to sort of take materials, honest materials, work with them in a unique way. And then, of course, modern, something that's tailored, edited, and curated. Over that 20 years, we've been recognized a number of times. I show this not because it's a pat on the back, but it's really about sort of that feeling that you get when you are recognized by your contemporaries, by the work that you've done, to see it in print, to see that sort of as the icing on the cake, after you've completed a project and put all that sort of time and effort in. So Today's talk is about something that kind of, it's something, I'm not a particularly religious person, but something that I always thought about was this idea that man plans and God laughs. And that is certainly something that have dealt with over the past 20 years of our practice, and certainly something we've all dealt with over the past 18 years, right? We've planned, or 18 months, planned for a lot of things that all, certainly over the last 18 months, have gone sideways. So when we talk about the snowball effect, we're talking about something that starts with relatively little significance, fairly insignificant, grows and grows and grows until it becomes potentially dangerous or disastrous. And I love this guy getting crushed by the snowball because I think we've all felt that way before. Or it's something that's beneficial, something that's kind of harmless. And, you think about, this is how we feel most of the time, right? We feel like we are pushing this ball uphill. I think most of us identify with this on a daily basis, right? Struggles with our clients, struggles with our firms, with our vendors. We know that timelines are off the charts right now. Costs have gone up. So I feel like most of us feel like we are always pushing this boulder uphill. But how do we actually sort of get to a place where we feel more balanced, where we can take control of what's going on, where we don't feel like we're getting squashed by the challenges that are coming our way, but we actually kind of feel like we can dominate them? So when I think about the 20-year history that we've had, and when I think about smart growth or strategic growth over time, you sort of start to ask these questions, sort of what does it mean to strategically grow a design brand, right? How do you leverage the things Lauren was talking about, your brand, your identity, go on television, do things that begin to establish who you are, launch a product line, things that are going to grow your brand. So we think about smart growth, and what does smart growth really come down to? It comes down to two things in my mind. One, leveraging momentum, right? Taking advantage of market trends, business trends, publicity, chance opportunities that come your way. And how do you future-proof? How do you begin to think about safeguarding everything that you've built against kind of the obstacles that are going to come your way? So for us, smart growth has happened over time. Many of you may know us for what we do, for these images, right? This is the stuff that's on our website, our portfolio. This is sort of what we love to do, what grounds us. This is our passion, both on the interior and exterior. We're known for sort of a progressive approach to vernacular around the country, really understanding sort of architecture in its place. But at the end of the day, it's not where we started, right? The honest truth is this is where we started. We started with work that looks nothing like where we are today. And if you talk to most people who are in their careers now for over 10 plus, 20 plus years, they're probably going to say the same thing. We took opportunities that were in front of us because maybe they got us to a location that we wanted to build in, or maybe it was with a particular budget or a contractor that we wanted to work with. But it ultimately got us to that next step. And for us, this is what that smart growth has looked like over time, right? This is our 20-year history, 20 years going from the two of us sitting in my business partner's apartment to getting our first office, entering our first competition, our first non-residential project, first hiring support staff, right? When do you know that it feels right to bring on people who are not billable? That's always a struggle, right? You know that if you're billing work, you can put a seat in a chair and you can bill against it. But when does it make sense to bring in those support people who are going to make you better? And our first product launch and so on, and then growing that over time. And it really comes down to this idea, this risk-reward concept of effort and impact, right? How much effort do you have to put into something to get the impact that you want? And you obviously don't want to put in a lot of effort with little impact, right? You're going to go out of business. But how do you begin to calibrate what's the right amount of effort to put into something that gets you the impact that you want? How do you know when to bring in services that are outside of what you offer, right? Work with a consultant or bring something in-house. How do you know what non-essential staff to bring on? So these are questions, growth questions, that we're asking ourselves all the time. We're always looking at this effort versus impact. And I would say we have probably defaulted more on effort and leveraging momentum, always going the extra mile in what we do. And I'm going to illustrate this through sort of a couple of different examples, right? So we first started our firm when we were doing single family residential work. We only had single family residential work. We had some apartments and homes, but we sort of knew we were ready to grow beyond that. We knew we wanted to go for larger opportunities, but we didn't have any. We had nothing in our portfolio, nothing of scale. So we had an opportunity to enter a competition. This was after Hurricane Katrina and Rita in New Orleans. And there was a focus on housing, on rehabilitating and the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans and thinking about housing in a different way. We are housing designers, residential designers, have been designing homes and apartments for people for a number of years. And we felt like we had something to contribute. So we felt like we were not only entering this competition because we felt like it was warranted and it was an interesting competition, but we actually felt like we had a voice. We had something to say. And so we took I think 15 or 17 people in our office, and we all worked on this competition. We all sort of, rolled up our sleeves and got involved. And ultimately, we put in such an incredible effort that we ended up winning. We won the competition. Which was the first time we were doing a project that was not a single family residential project. This had a community center, which you can see in the foreground. It had an apartment building, which never got built, but we designed it, and a number of single family houses. And it was also looking at sustainability at the time. This is 2005, 2006, looking at sustainability in a very progressive way. So it helped us become experts in that area so that we were looking at larger scale buildings. We were understanding sustainable design in a richer way, in a more informed way that allowed us to actually talk about a lot of these things. And so it allowed us to sort of take that project and carry it forward. From there, we had an opportunity. This was probably in 2008, 2009. To do another larger scale project. We had done some free conceptual work for a friend whose company at the time was looking at doing a project in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And it was an ideas thing. It was just to help them raise money. That idea ended up percolating up to the top, to the CEO of the Brooklyn Navy Yard at the time, a guy named Andrew Kimball. He saw it. The friend that we were doing the work for ended up not doing the project, but Andrew Kimball saw it and decided they were going to take on the project. He called us up and said, "Can we use your renderings in the RFP? Not, will you guys do the project? Not, we're interested in working with you, but can we use your renderings?" So, of course we said yes. But we sort of also said, well, could we enter? Do we have a chance at this? And he was frankly very honest with us at the time. We were a small firm doing mostly residential work. And he said, guys, simply, you don't really have the muscle. So if you brought the muscle to the table, then, maybe we would consider you. So we took that advice and we went and found the muscle. We knew that we had an opportunity. We knew we had the foot in the door. We knew that we had a good idea. We were very, very convinced that our idea was a smart one. And we found a partner, in this case, a very well-known New York firm, Buyer Blinder Bell, well-known for historic preservation, well-known for large-scale civic projects, brought them in, and together we put together an RFP that went after the project. And this was 2008. This was when the market was crashing. City projects more people were going after city projects because they were already funded. And so honestly, we didn't think we had a chance. We put together an incredible RFP. We did a number of renderings, including the renderings you can see on the screen here. Before we got the project, we put in the effort. And ultimately, that led to us getting the project, which surprised us, certainly surprised a lot of other people who went for it. But because we put in the effort, because we thought through the project in a smart way, it allowed us to really show what we were capable of. From there, now we had sort of this original, the competition project, which was scale. This was actually built work. This was another project locally. We had our first multifamily project. Again, we had never done any multifamily work. We knew that buyer because we'd been doing single family work for quite a while, but we'd never had any multifamily work. And we had an opportunity to come in to do a project down in the West Village. And we really knew that the only way we were going to get this project was if we put in the effort. And we really did. We put in an incredible effort. We made a presentation that really rethought how this project could work and rethought it through a developer's eyes. And even though we were kind of the dark horse in the race, we ended up getting the project. So what I'm trying to illustrate is over time, we have really decided where to put in that extra effort to make sure that we can, have the impact ultimately that we want. And so we continue to do that. In fact, one of the cool things about this project was the printing house was that not only did it allow us to understand the apartment typology, but now we were understanding the public spaces. So now we were looking at a larger building. And we continue to do that today. During some of the slower time last year, we had an opportunity to really make a big impact at a project in the Bahamas. Again, we were kind of the low man on the totem pole. There were some very well-known architects that were coming in to make proposals for this particular site. We had a relationship with certain people there because we had done some single-family work, but we really wanted to show them that we were capable of doing much more. So we went above and beyond to put this project together to really show what we're capable of. You're seeing a hint of it here. And, lo and behold, we didn't get the project, right? So we put all this effort in, we didn't get the project. But what came out of it was that developer calling us back and saying, we're not going to give you that project, but we have 2 oceanfront lots in an adjacent area that we want you to do. So not only did we get a project out of it, we got a better project that was twice the size. So it was just about making sure that that particular client knew what we were capable of, and at the end of the day, impressing them. So for us, leveraging our talents, leveraging our abilities has proven to be a good way for us to continue to grow over time. The second component that I want to talk about is this idea of future proofing. And future proofing is like this image. It's a crystal ball. At the end of the day, none of us have a crystal ball, but we do have metrics that we can use that sort of tell us about our firm, that tell us about how we're operating and what we're doing. And those metrics really do help guide us, right? It's the difference between going on a journey with a map or without a map. If you don't have a map, you are bound to get lost. If you have a map, then hopefully you find where you're going. So part of our future proofing was about diversification. We knew from the very beginning that if you only have one sandbox to play in, then if there is something, something catastrophic that happens, if that particular market is upset, then ultimately you are bound to that market. So we knew early on that we wanted to grow beyond our residential skill set. So we expanded, like I explained, into multifamily work. We're doing a number of multifamily projects. We took the multifamily size and scope and the residential feel and brought that forward into our hospitality work, essentially looking at the crossover relationships between hospitality clients that really want a residential feel and our residential clients that really want a hospitality experience, especially in their vacation homes. So all of that made a lot of sense. Then what we were able to do was grow that one more step, was to look at product and to look at not only are we doing one-off really beautiful bespoke products for our residential clients, but how do we begin to think about product in a more mass-produced way for our development and hospitality clients? So that really led us to explore product design, product licensing, and ultimately product private label, which is product that we are launching on our own sort of over the next 6 months, which you will see. So in terms of product, we've done a number of collections with a number of different really great partners. And the idea is to begin to think about disconnecting to a certain degree from that client relationship, right? Thinking about how you can monetize other aspects of your business. And again, in order to sort of future-proof. And the Arterius collection, which just launched a few months ago, is our most recent collection. It's, I think, 48 different SKUs that we launched with Arterius. That is really about sort of meaning and making. We're looking at sort of simple making techniques, whether it's glass making, glazing, ceramics, things like that. And we're pretty excited about this, and hopefully some of you have seen it. The other component that really is part of future proofing is this crystal ball, is this sense that if you understand where you're going, if you understand the metrics that are at play, then you can begin to make strategic decisions along the way, right? So we're looking at, sort of this is sort of how the sausage gets made, so to speak, right? This is behind the scenes. These are not our real numbers. I've sort of changed the numbers a bit in full transparency, but this report tracks our performance as a firm in terms of our financial data and our KPIs, our key performance indicators. And the general section helps gauge the health of the firm, right? How are we doing? How much do we have left to bill on projects, things like that. The monthly data section enables us to track if we're meeting our monthly goals or not. The financial section tracks our annual financial performance. But then the KPIs are really, really interesting, right? This is where all of the different sections come together and we understand things like staffing. How many more people can we afford? We understand invoicing, whether invoicing is up or down, right? So we're tracking all of this stuff in a very sort of data-driven way. The next one is the monthly production report. This report tracks our performance as a firm and with financial data and KPIs. And this is really where we're able to look at studio by studio, how each studio is performing monetarily and how each studio is performing with respect to their utilization. How many people they have, how many people do they need based on their workload, or how many people, frankly, are they over based on their workload? And it allows us to make key decisions based on that. And then ultimately, we're able to visualize this. I'll talk about the software in a second. We're able to visualize all of this and really understand where our cliff is, right? So what's the runway that we have? When we talk about runway, we're really talking about how much revenue do we have coming in, what are our expenses, and where does it start to fall off? So when we're looking at this, we're always looking out 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to try to understand sort of what that runway really looks like. And then another portion, so obviously there's the data side, there's the money side, but the other part is qualitative. These are the qualitative KPIs. This is the culture of our firm. And any good firm right now, especially where people are busy, is hyper aware of their culture and wanting to maintain a positive culture, wanting to maintain an environment that, frankly, people respect and people enjoy. And so that's something that we are always thinking about. And this was something that came out of a leadership retreat that we did recently, where we were able to have everyone was evaluated based on their personality traits, right? Based on how they communicate best and how do they communicate best and how do you communicate best with them, right? So you might have somebody who has a fiery red personality, or a cool blue, an analytical personality, or a sunshine yellow personality, right? The more we understand each other, the more we're actually able to communicate with each other in a successful way. And so we think about that in terms of the health of the firm. We think about what does our staff need? What do we need as leaders? And so there's not only just the data side of things, which obviously is going to inform decisions, but there's the qualitative side, which really is going to help make sure that we have both short-term goals through the data, but long-term success through our office culture. So let's see. So at the end of the day, when part of this idea of growing a firm sort of over time is that there isn't necessarily one solution, right? There isn't just, if I do this, then this will come. It's looking at all of these components, making sure that all of those components are taken into account when you're making decisions. And for us, over 20 years, we sort of feel like while we have this incredible 20-year history, we also, to a certain degree, feel like now that we've got this information, we're just starting out and we're launching sort of into the second phase of our career, second phase of growth. So it looks like I am close to being done with time. I'll turn it over to some questions and to Jane. Hi, Jane.
Hi. So, and
Um,
please meet Don
Go ahead.
Ricardo, Matt, because you haven't met him yet. So,
Hey there.
yeah,
How are you, Don?
yeah.
Doing good.
We've been kind of writing a bunch of things here down, but it's so interesting. I love the graph. Thank you for sharing, things that are part of your company's like intelligence, So I think, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that, because I think that a lot of designers that are here considering expanding from where they are can learn from that. Um, and
I think Jane, something that we've learned during COVID is that pre-COVID, we all held things very close to our chest, right? We sort of while we were a community, we to a certain degree were a little bit of a this is what I do. I'm not going to share too much, and I think we came together as a community as a result of this that really brought us together to actually talk to each other as colleagues. I had many calls during the beginning of the pandemic. What are you doing about the PPP? What are you doing about layoffs? What are you doing about furloughing? What are you doing? And it was sharing information in a way that I don't think I had ever done before in our community. And I think this type of thing, like you said, the brains, the intelligence behind it, is something that we could all share and benefit from. We're happy to share it. We're working with a consultant who's amazing, who has helped us sort of understand all of this information, and they've made us better. They've just absolutely made us better for it.
you just reminded me of something, because during COVID, I remember there was that list that I think might have started close to your company, but there was that big shared Excel sheet, right? With like who's still getting product out, who's working. Was it generated? Because I heard about it from you. Was it generated
We
from
did.
you?
We did, yeah, yeah. We started it again. Came out of one of these calls where we were talking about workrooms and which workrooms were open, and could anybody new. And it was just people were struggling, right? Which workrooms are open? Is this person still there? Obviously it was a very difficult time where you didn't know if somebody wasn't returning your call because they were sick, because they were closed. You just had no idea. So yeah, we started it, and it grew. It grew to pretty big list.
It was pretty. Yeah, it went pretty viral. We've got some questions, but I'm going to just read what's come in here. We got one question that said, "What software is being used to pull out those numbers?"
So the answer is we work with a consultant called Precise. I'm giving them a plug right now because they're amazing. So I would recommend that everybody call them. But I don't know what software they use. I think a lot of it's done in Excel, and they have their own softwares that they use. But they audit all of our numbers. We work with them on a monthly basis. They come back to us with their reports, and they're helping us really understand all of this data in a very nuanced way.
Another number related question, which is not my place that I like to dwell in, but can you share the graph/worksheet with the formula? So I'm not.
The graph worksheet with
Maybe Autumn will see exactly what she means. I'm not sure. Graph/Autumn, if you're on, I know you are. Let's see. So,
And while we're waiting on that, I just want to know the products that you guys design. Are you specifying them and selling them to your clients? Is that something that you make a point to do?
We do, yeah. It's always an ongoing discussion. We want to grow. We want our product offering to grow beyond just self specification, right? Self specification is a great place to prototype ideas, and ultimately you want to place some of your products in projects, but you're always balancing your brand, right, your authenticity with kind of these other goals. So you don't want to have your projects be too dominated by your own products. I think otherwise you feel like I think we know some looks out there that feel like they become very repetitive. So I think we're very careful about that. We're usually targeting sort of 20 to 30% of trying to get products, into like 20 or 30% of projects, but not have them dominate.
So, since you launched your line with Arteriors, have you been to market? Have you been to any of the markets, to the showrooms?
Not yet.
Are you coming to High Point?
I'm not. Some people from my office are. We've been to the Arterior showroom, but we haven't been there since we launched, just given everything that's been going on.
Well, we've all, lots of us have seen it. But that I look forward to whoever's going to be here from your company, because that's a place we certainly go to. When do you know, Matt, like now you're at 70 people roughly, four offices around the country. I don't know, when you started 20 years ago, if you thought, by 2021, we're going to be this big, but like, guess you readjust your vision a little bit, but how big do you does it feel like you're big enough? Like, do you want to take over the world?
If you would ask my partner that question, I would say when we were at 20, he said, that's it. We're not going past 20. When we were at 40, that's it. We're not going past 40. 50, no way. We're never going to get to 50. I mean, I think it really becomes about opportunity, right? A good friend of mine, somebody who I respect a lot, gave me some advice not too long ago. And she said, you have two options with growth. You can spend your time fighting it or embracing it, but it's going to happen. Meaning it's going to come at you, right? And so I think we try to embrace it in a smart way. And what I mean by a smart way is, listen, let's face it, a lot of people in our industry are busy right now. There's a lot of work going around. The residential world in particular is incredibly busy. And so there's a lot of work coming in. If we took it all, we would completely overwhelm ourselves and our staff. So we have to say no. So you start thinking about where do you want to go, right? What are we saying no to? And frankly, these are projects we're saying no to today. We may have taken 6 months ago, right? It's always changing. You're always looking at the opportunities and saying, is this opportunity where I want to go? And right now you can be a little bit more selective, which is great. That's not always the case. We know that this is cyclical. We know there are going to be slower times. We know that there are going to be projects down the road that, we're going to take because we have to. That's kind of the reality of our business. I think we are trying to build our brand in a way where we can continue to grow in a smart way so that we can be more and more selective as we grow. But I think it's a funny question. Like we were joking the other day, like, could we see ourselves at 100? And, I think that makes us all choke a little bit. But when you look at the opportunities that are coming into us, and the phone calls that we're getting, they're really exciting. They're meaty projects. They're fun projects. They're projects that you don't want to say no to. So then the question is, well, how do we make it work? Can we make it work? And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And I think firms across the country are struggling with those decisions, right now.
And you said that you have a business coach, and maybe several other coaches. You kind of have a network who you need. Do you meet with that person or company? How often? On demand?
Yeah. Well, so we've had a number of business coaches over the years. All of them have been great. It's not like we left one because there was any reason. It's just sometimes we would evolve. We would evolve from the particular style or coaching approach of one person into a different coaching approach. I think we're with someone right now who we just did this leadership retreat with, who taught us all about our own personality traits, both pro and con. Some of the things I think we're all aware of, and she would talk to us and you'd be like, yep, that's me. And other things you'd be like, I guess that's me. I went home and I showed my husband my personality traits and he read it and he was like, yep. I was like, great. Because, sometimes you see things in black and white, and, it sort of, you start to understand a little bit more about yourself. So we've brought her in now on retainer. She's amazing. She's going to meet with our whole office to help our whole office understand who they are and how we all work better together, right? It's how, at the end of the day, the goal is how can we be a more efficient workplace? How can we be a kinder workplace? I think that at the end of the day, we believe a lot in our office culture. Our office culture is who we are. And if we are not, we've had people with us 15 years, right? We have to embrace that culture and make sure that it is a positive place, or frankly, we're going to lose people, right? I mean, that's what's happening in the market today. And we don't want to. We have great people. We want to help them cultivate, help them become better leaders. We want to become better leaders. And we don't know all the answers. So bringing in outside consultants can really help. Mm-hmm. I think, frankly, that's something that we learned early. I think early on, maybe we thought we could do everything, right? When we were a young firm, we thought we could design our own website. Or, frankly, we didn't want to pay somebody to design our own website. So we designed it ourselves. Or we did our own graphic design. Or we did X, Y, and Z. We started to realize that as we partnered with people who were true professionals in these areas, we benefited. So now I think we do really understand the value of outside expertise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we've gotten some, amazing work, tangible, great, valuable information. So people are thankful for your sharing, and I hope you can come back for a little bit of happy hour if you're able to join us, and anybody else from your, I'm very fond of of Lisa Jasper. I don't know what her official title is, but, I'm very fond of her. And so anybody from your companies, I invite them to come.
Absolutely.
And I hope to see you in person sometime. There's a lot of other questions I have, but we have to get rolling. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, Matt.